Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Congressman Mark Amodei of CD2 joins us. He's here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room at the Bank Saloon. Coverage of the 2021 Nevada legislative session is brought to you by Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. Ahern Rentals is ready for your next project. Liberty Dental Plan, making members shine one smile at a time. And Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we are always pleased to welcome back to the program Congressman Mark Amodei of CD2. It's been only a short while since your last visit on the program, but something is occurring today as we're taping this that is a big deal, and as we have the opportunity to grab you, I wanted to do that. You're going to be inducted into the State Senate Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they finally lowered the entrance criteria.
Apparently.
Don't tell anybody. Yeah, but that's nice. I mean, you know, having served with the Joe Neals and my colleague in the House, Dina Titus, and Lawrence Jacobson, Bill Raggio, Mike McGinnis, Ann O'Connell.
Randolph Townsend.
Yeah, all those folks, you know, and now when you say those names, it's like, oh yeah, way back then. But it's, you know, for a guy who grew up in Carson, it's kind of a neat thing. And so just kind of warms the cockles of my heart a little bit. And so thanks to those folks. And I think James Settlemeyer, as the minority leader, has something to do with that, and apparently the rest of the caucus and the members of the Senate didn't protest too loudly, so yay.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thanks.
All right, so now let's move to some political news, which is a big story over the last couple of days. I think Nevada Independent broke it, but it's been rumored for months, which was that Joe Lombardo seriously looking at running for governor.
Yep.
How does that affect you?
Well, I mean, first of all, the sheriff's a good guy, I like him, that sort of thing, but it's like, you know, everybody's talking about Steve Sisolak, and it's like, there's gonna be a Republican primary. And so when you look at who votes in Republican primaries, what percentage of that vote comes out of Clark County, what percentage comes out of Washoe County, what percentage comes out of the rest, because we've taken a strong look at it, and quite frankly, so far it's good news for us. I mean, you've got a little over half the votes in the state come out of Clark County in a Republican primary. And I'm not going to say a lot more, because if those professionals that people like the sheriff are hiring can't figure it out from there, then what the heck. But I like the way it lays out for us in a Republican primary.
You know, it's interesting. I remember years ago, Phil Satry who's now the chairman of WIN,
Yep.
at the time was running Harris, was considering running for governor as a Democrat. And my understanding is that he decided not to run because a gaming executive running for governor of Nevada didn't seem to be the right thing. And it just strikes me that it's kind of unique for a sheriff to be running for governor.
Well, you know what, Sam, a lot of people have a lot of different views on what goes into that. And you know, the overall context that this takes place in is there's a lot of people that think that Steve Sisolak is vulnerable, okay? And whether he is or he isn't, you'll find out in November of next year. But quite frankly, the last time a bunch of people in Nevada thought that a Democrat incumbent was pretty vulnerable was Harry Reid. And so you had a lot of Republicans jumping in, couldn't wait to take on Harry Reid. And guess what? You had a few people from Clark County and Sue Loudon, Danny Tarkanian. And guess what happened? When the Republicans in the primary voted, you know, Sharon Angle ended up being the nominee. And you say, well, how could that have happened? Well, first of all, she's from the North, which is a strong Republican presence. I like the way that matches up with CD2. And also you get multiple people from Clark County, kind of splits the vote, and then you get your share too. So I'm just saying it's one of those things where, quite frankly, not that that's directly relevant to now, but it's like, so far so good. We like the way the numbers look.
Another interesting comparison, as you brought up the Harry Reid race, was the advertising firm that ran his campaign was GMMB out of DC, and the advertising agency that ran Steve Sisolak's first campaign was also GMMB.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see if they continue on. I would not be surprised at all. So
well,
a very powerful DC agency.
And listen, I mean, let's just talk about what's clearly visible on the table. By the end of this year, everybody who wants a shot will have gotten one. Whether you agree with what the governor's done or not during his first term, vis-a-vis the pandemic and the economy and stuff like that, the economy will be heading in the right direction. It's also pretty much a fact that, quite frankly, rather than losing money, the state, cities, counties in this state actually, with this last bill, got their potential shortfalls covered and more. And so I don't want to be provocative, but there's a
please, take the time.
There's a very good likelihood that Nevada's political subdivisions made money on federal aid to cover their tax collection shortfalls. And you're going to see that across the street in terms of, quite frankly, there were people, even on your show, that said, hey, the state's awash in money right now. And you're going, so that'll be interesting for how the taxes go. But make no mistake about the gubernatorial race, if all you've got is, hey, we think he did a bad job, and shame on you, by the time it comes time to vote next year, a lot of that stuff's going to be in the rearview mirror. It's going to be a tough race. Sitting incumbent Democratic governor who has a, you know, that party has a history of, basically, they handed Donald Trump a 100,000 vote loss in Clark County twice. So you may ask, when you talk about consultants, are we going to use, so who are the Republicans going to use? And it's like, well, I just hope that either somebody has an epiphany on they need to change, or that you bring somebody else in.
Yes, interesting days to say the least here. The other key component is how happy is gaming as an industry with the governor's performance? How badly does the shutdown ordered by the governor affect the way that gaming goes? I mean, gaming is going to give money to the winners on either side, but they're a big player here.
Well, I just think that the history is when push comes to shove, I'm trying to think of a time, maybe you can, the Strip doesn't go against the Culinary Union and detailer politically. And by the way, the last time maybe they did something against an incumbent governor, although that was taken care of in the primary, was Brian Sandoval and Jim Gibbons. So I don't think that, I would be surprised if the Strip does anything other than what historically they've done, which is we're going to support the incumbent.
John Lee, changing from Democrat to Republican, well loved by a lot of conservatives because, you know, if he were in the federal level, he'd be a blue dog Democrat. Now he's a Republican. Your thoughts on how he plays into this game?
Well, I mean, I'm glad he's in, quite frankly. Hey, Sheriff, you got somebody else in North Las Vegas that's vying for the home field advantage. I served with John, like John. He's a good guy. I do think it's a bold move to basically, within 3 weeks or 4 weeks, go, hey, I've decided I want to be on the red team now, and I'm ready to be for your nomination for the chief executive of the state. That's pretty quick. And so I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm sure people are looking at what they've done on the city council in North Las Vegas and what John's record is, which all of us who have been in public service with a vote, as John has, you know, that stuff gets microscoped and whatever. So we'll see. But I mean, what the heck? You know, and I guess I shouldn't say this because I don't really mean it. The more, the merrier. But with a few folks down there in Clark County vying for the home field advantage down there, as a guy who's won 6 in a row in basically the rest of the state, that works well for me.
All right, so bottom line then is you're still contemplating, because you've got until March of next year to make the decision, but at this point you are still seriously contemplating a run.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing though, Sam, everybody comes up and they go, what are you going to do? And it's like, nobody ever won or lost in May or June of the year before the election. And so you're looking at that. You mentioned when we had talked one time, well, how's things laying out in the House? Because if you guys can flip 7 or 8 seats, then you'll be in the majority. And how's that work for you in terms of, and it's not how it works for me, it's how it works for Nevada. But
a seat on the Appropriations Committee in the majority is not a little
chairman,
deal.
Potential, it's like, hey, that's pretty good for Nevada. The other thing that plays into it too is one of the things you got to weigh, I think if it's really about public service instead of, but really what about me, is you sit there and you go, is this a great time to be letting, assuming that a Republican would succeed me, is this a good time to have somebody who's basically starting out with no seniority when you're the only Republican seat in the federal delegation? And so it's something that was on, I mean, Dina Titus thought about it from the other side of the aisle, and quite frankly, it was like, you know what, and I think she made the right decision. Seniority in the Democratic caucus for Nevada is a good thing on the House.
Oh, to say the least. Redistricting. There's going to be a special session down the road here. Your thoughts on that and how it might affect the shape of CD2?
Well, I mean, here's the deal. If you want to, because Washoe County, you know, generally runs about 50-50 registration. The independents are obviously important. We think one of the things in a gubernatorial race is you tell me another Republican who's been on the ballot 6 times in a row every 2 years that's won Washoe County all 6 times, and that's not because I'm a great guy. It's because we work very hard at the job and doing a good job and campaign on that. But if you want to connect up the core Washoe County Democratic precincts with something to make the district, and by the way, the district isn't obscene. I think it's R+7. So it's not like you go out and campaign and just say, I'm the Republican. You got to have more than that.
It certainly got close to last time.
Well, I mean, 15 points, which was close for me. Washoe County was 5,000 votes. That's not as close as it's been. Clint Coble got within 4,000, which I think is a reflection of he was a pretty good candidate. But having said all that, if you want to link that area up with some Democratic precincts, you got to go to North Las Vegas to get the closest ones that are really meaningful. At the same time, I know Stephen Horsford is looking for a few more points. Dina's, I think, D+15. Susie Lee is certainly looking for a few more points. So I just think in the overall scheme of things, it's like, well, Dina may have to give up a few points to help her friends. But quite frankly, how you draw a line that says, here you go, Washoe D precincts, now we're going to basically leapfrog you into Clark County. I mean, Nye County, White Pine County. You know, there's 5 counties. When you get outside of Clark, it's like you're not going to get well in Esmeralda. You're not going to get well in Mineral. You're not going to get well in South Lyon. You're not going to get well in Ely. And you're not going to get well in Nye County. So it's like you got to figure out some way to hook downtown Reno with somewhere in North Las Vegas.
So basically, you and Pete Goa-Kachia could split the gas money on traveling across the state.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And I'm kidding, of course. Let's take a break. We'll come right back with Congressman Mark Amodei after this time out.
Located in the heart of Carson City, the Bank Saloon, a historic watering hole with a modern feel. With a variety of classic cocktails, featuring Nevada spirits, space for private events, conferences, and an incredible atmosphere. The Bank Saloon offers a great location to work and play. Come visit us. Located at the corner of 5th and Carson. We'll save you a drink.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Serving Our Kids Foundation's mission is to serve homeless, at-risk, and food insecure children in grades K through 8 throughout Southern Nevada. During the pandemic, Serving Our Kids has seen a 42% increase in the number of children served, providing more than 4,500 meals to kids in over 100 schools weekly. Serving Our Kids is powered by community support and volunteers. To learn how you can help, visit servingourkids.org.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Congressman Mark Amodei. And as always, you drop little stories on me right before we start the interview. You were with Nancy Pelosi at the Italian-American Caucus dinner. Tell us about that and how close you were sitting.
Well, the Italian ambassador is getting ready to rotate in, and his replacement is the lady that's the ambassador from Italy to the UN. And so they had kind of a little thing, a farewell for him. And so as the Republican co-chair of the Italian-American Caucus, a phenomenally august group, so it's like, okay, last Wednesday, here you go, we're there and whatever. And I always try to, you go, you kind of do your stuff that you're supposed to do in that, but I was not planning on, like staying for dinner, because the Italian ambassador's residence is not close to downtown DC. And so anyhow, I was getting ready to make my move, and one of his people at the embassy said, "Oh, Congressman, we have a chair for you." And so what are you going to say? "No, I'm not staying." So it's like, here I go. So I'm sitting here. Right next to me is the speaker, then the Italian ambassador, and then Rosa DeLauro, the chair of House of Probes, and then a couple folks from the Italian-American Federation. And so it was like, it was a lovely dinner, and nobody was wearing masks, and I think everybody is still healthy.
Was there any conversation between you and the speaker?
Yeah, it's a funny thing about that. It's like we don't agree on probably anything politically, or almost nothing. But when you get her on her own, not in the Capitol building or whatever, she's a sports fan. She wanted to kind of leave as soon as she could, because the Warriors were playing the Lakers that night. And she kind of wanted to see that, and she was telling some stories about growing up and stuff like that. So I mean, she's very good at what she does. She started out as an organizer. I think she might have been the chair of the California Republican Party way back. So that's kind of the base where you're sitting there thinking, now I know why she's as good as she is at raising zillions of dollars for her folks. Although it's interesting, because Rosa DeLauro, when she leaves, says, "Hey, you think I'm going to get any votes tomorrow?" And I go, "Yeah, you'll get some votes." That was that bill for kind of the January 6th reparations thing, and they had some defections in her side, where the bill passed by one vote. No Republicans voted for it, and so But it's interesting, because it reminded me, Sam, of the old days, even here in Nevada, where you might slug it out during the election, but once the election was over, you worked on the policy to get the policy right, and people reached across at all points in time. Well, that's not happening anytime soon at the House, but at least in a social context, you get a chance to see these people without the lights on and without their staff around whispering in their ear and stuff like that. And so,
okay, so you just raised an incredibly important point, which is shouldn't there be more of that, private dinners, private discussions outside of the Capitol, to be able to reestablish a center of where it's not against the nation for Republicans and Democrats to talk to each other and actually work on bipartisan issues in the quiet that they can then bring to the Capitol?
Well, I'm a fan of that because, quite frankly, and here's a Neanderthal thought, which is, hey, at the end of the day, don't you want to get the policy right? And quite frankly, when you talk about the governor's race or at the federal level, it's like, who the heck's talking about the policy, the issue, and how to solve it? Or how to at least figure out what we don't agree on and wrestle about that, as opposed to the political agenda and the talking points that support that. Because those two paths do not meet. And it's discouraging to see at any level, we're going with the political agenda and those talking points, and to heck with the policy and solving the problem. So I agree with you. It's like when you have a chance to talk to somebody and connect on whatever that connection basis is, and show some respect to them as a fellow policymaker or staff person or whatever, I think that leads to problems getting solved and the policy getting right. But boy, the concentration doesn't seem to be there most of the time anymore.
And we'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Tamarack Casino is giving away 2 Mercedes-Benz during the $125,000 Benz or cash giveaways. Plus, players get 5 times points on video reels every Friday. Win 2 Mercedes-Benz now through May at Tamarack Casino.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
The Do It Right guys at Nevada Heating have one mission. Your air conditioner breaks down today. We fix it today. Why sweat for days while your air is down, when Nevada Heating can get the job done today, and you can get cool again? For nearly 50 years, locally owned Nevada Heating has been getting the job done right. Call today at 323-5585 or see us online at nevadaheating.com.
Hi, I'm Renee Summerhour, digital news anchor here at 7 at 7. Watch our streaming nonstop newscast immediately with your mobile phone. 7 at 7 is the new way for you to get every bit of local news you need in just 7 minutes. Breaking news, local neighborhood news, weather, and sports are just a click away. Reporters bring you all of what's happening in the Valley. From Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, YouTube, and more. Get every bit of local news you need from the RJ and LVRJ.com.
Tamarack Casino is giving away 2 Mercedes-Benz during the $125,000 Benz or cash giveaways. Plus, players get 5 times points on video reels every Friday. Win 2 Mercedes-Benz now through May at Tamarack Casino.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Congressman Mark Amodei of CD2, the critical minerals bill you just introduced, or reintroduced. Tell us about that, because lithium is such a big deal, and the other minerals that are associated with that, but also the environmental battle that we're seeing, down in southern Nevada, where it's just crazy. We need the lithium, and Teams Buckwheat is standing in the way. Where does it go?
Well, I mean, first of all, the bill's nothing new. It's been around the whole time I've been around. We passed it out of the House several times. It's one of those things about, oh my God, the miners are going to take over and destroy this, that, the other sort of thing. It's like, hey, it's all NEPA. It's all still public. It's still a 2-year process, I think. This one is. We put stuff in saying, hey, if you really need more time, you can agree to take 6 months more, expand that by 25%. But it's one of those things, Sam, where you're sitting there right now, it's like, hey, the automobile industry is struggling. It's like, why? Well, because of chips. Well, where do they make the chips? Not here. I mean, some of them are, and they're trying to ramp that up. But the stuff that goes into them is like, we have it here. It can be extracted in an environmentally responsible way. Why not let us do it? So we're getting into all that other sort of stuff. But it's like, hey, quite frankly, it's a policy thing that needs to be visited. You can build safeguards into it, but if your real objective is to say, I don't want you to develop your own resources and be vulnerable economically and militarily, then it's like, well, then you ought to be judged on that, quite frankly.
Well, it just seems that in some of these environmental issues, it's like the environment supersedes man.
Well, I think it's the politics of the environment. I mean, you had mentioned lithium in one location in Nevada versus another one, where in the one up by McDermott, it's like, yay, and this is great, lithium-ion batteries, and down below where it's like, nope, we can't have that. And it's almost like, listen, if there are environmental issues that need to be solved, then solve them. If they can't be solved, then say no. But you know what? Like the thing for the buckwheat plant species, I've been out there and looked around, and I'm not a scientist, so don't think I'm trying to fool you. But still, it's one of those things where, look at Southern Nevada, there were environmental issues with the desert tortoise years ago. Gonna shut them down. They did a responsible solution, and now it's like, okay, you can do that. The mining industry has been very good, whether it's mercury, whether it's restoration of mule deer habitat, watersheds, all that stuff. It's like, give them a chance to do it, and if they can't, then tell them no. But quite frankly, the record's pretty good on being able to be responsible towards our air, water, and land resources. And so the political thing of, well, I don't care about any of that, when push comes to shove, I just don't want them doing it, puts us in an incredibly vulnerable economic and national security situation.
And that's where we got to leave it. Always a pleasure, sir. Congratulations again on getting into the Hall of Fame.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Apparently they're letting anybody in.
Yeah,
no, I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
It's a good time to get in.
Congratulations, man. We'll be right back. Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
We'll see you on the next broadcast, coming to you from the Bank Saloon in Carson City. See you then.